Wow. MRC-TV readers and viewers might recall that on October 5th, the MRC-TV team and I exposed how Saleh Amarova, Joe Biden's nominee for Comptroller of the currency, praised the former Soviet police state where she received her university degree. Well, there's a lot more information, and it all fits her Marxist ideology, an ideology many people might not realize has already been imprinted in many branches of the U.S. government. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. Indeed, in that October 5th release, I not only reported that Saleh Amarova praised the USSR, the government of which exterminated over 60 million people at a low estimate, I not only got to report on the fact that she perpetuated the gender pay gap in America myth, I noted signals that Amarova wants to eliminate whatever vestiges of private banking we have left in the United States, and that she would like to have the Federal Reserve control all bank activity for all people. Well, now there's plenty more. In a video call revealed November 12th on Twitter, the Marxist, who in 1989 graduated from Moscow State University on the Lenin Personal Academic Scholarship, and by the way, who repeatedly has resisted congressional and news agency requests to release her thesis called Karl Marx's Economic Analysis and the Theory of Revolution in the Capital, Das Kapital, this Marxist openly stated what she desires for you, me, and the rest of American humanity.
There will be no more private bank deposit accounts, and all of the deposit accounts will be held directly at the Fed.
Which is consistent with her Marxist tenets and consistent with the anti-privacy, anti-freedom of choice course on which political leftists have steered the U.S. for many, many years. In fact, it goes back as far as the American Revolution. Here's some history. It started during the American Revolutionary era with the creation of the corrupt Bank of North America at the prodding of Continental Congress Finance Minister Robert Morris. And that was a bank that subsequently was run by Morris, to, of course, his incredible benefit. Then that shifted into the first and second banks of the United States after the Constitution was ratified, and they were chartered on and off from the time Alexander Hamilton, a protege of Morris, got into the Washington administration on through to the Jackson administration. And that corrupt central bank system persisted by seeing massive glad handling, massive inflation, and more booms and busts than an explosives expert working on the set of a Russ Meyer film. Now, our current not-so-free banking system is a result of government regulations that have accrued over decades and the creation, of course, of the Federal Reserve in 1913 with its method of lending to banks, and now, thanks to Trump-era federal COVID legislation, being able to buy private corporate bonds without even telling anyone what they're buying. Yeah, they have lots of powers. They have the monopoly on the creation of our legal currency. And of course, they have the ability to set reserve standards for private banks. Oh, and then there's the U.S. government's privacy-invading Know Your Customer rules, going back to the absurd 2001 Patriot Act and the 1970 Bank Secrecy Act. Yeah, the Fourth Amendment seems pretty unimportant to politicians, especially when it comes to snooping in your private bank account. And then, of course, there's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, which offers banks below market rate insurance on their deposits and has inspired banks to be much more reckless with their loans. Americans have never really had a long stretch of truly free banking in the United States, or truly free money at all. And it's gotten worse and worse as time has passed. Now, Amarova, a woman who literally studied at Moscow State on a Lenin scholarship, is openly promoting what she believes are the benefits of the Fed taking over all deposit accounts. One of those, she thinks, would be Of course, an expansion of the money power that the Fed can shower on favored businesses, or which the Fed can actually hold as ransom. Because, of course, businesses need loans, and private banks won't be issuing them anymore under the Marxist paradigm that she wants. Omarova even implies that the Fed might
take money away from people's accounts.
And if you know folks who think that that's not a possibility, I would simply refer them to recent history internationally. Refer them to, for example, Greece, circa 2015 to 2018, when the government created central bank there and its overlords at the European Central Bank put limits on withdrawals and even shut down some bank branches due to the government debt-inspired inflationary curve that had been brewing for decades there and became an emergent poison for private depositors in 2009. By the way, that 2015 problem, that came after the leftist-adored move in 2011 to dump Greek Prime Minister George Papandreou and see him replaced with the former vice president of the European Central Bank, Lucas Papademos. And that, get this, that itself came after Greece turned to the ECB for, yeah, you got it, loans and more inflation that just made things worse. Then we can also turn to the 2013 move by the government bank nexus of Cyprus to literally seize private bank accounts. But no, don't mention that to anyone in the pop media or to your leftist friends who used to talk a good game about privacy and who don't walk the walk any better than drunks at sobriety stops. Our leftist neighbors likely are too drunk with love for the government money monopoly and its vast array of regulations and connected corporate friends to bother thinking about the problems this kind of system has wrought in history. And they're too enamored with Marxism by a different name to consider freedom as anything but a deadly enemy. They likely will embrace Omarova's approach if it is put forward someday, and they'll excoriate anyone who would prefer to use free market currency created by private banks based on their own stores of gold or other value commodities that we could actually check. And of course, these people likely will embrace Omarova's other big bombshell of the week, her desire to see oil, coal, and gas companies go bankrupt to achieve the leftist goal of environmental nirvana. On November 9th, video call footage of Omarova surfaced in which she stated,
and here what I'm thinking about is primarily coal industry and oil and gas industry. A lot of the smaller players in that industry are going to probably go bankrupt in short order. At least we want them to go bankrupt if we want to tackle climate change, right?
Now, for reference to the bogus nature of the anthropogenic climate change mythology, I'll refer you to plenty of pieces at MRCTV.org or plenty of videos that MRCTV has produced, which are housed at YouTube and at Rumble. But it's the consistency of Omarova's Marxist message that I would like to highlight as we close this presentation. In his Communist Manifesto of 1848, Karl Marx stressed 10 points that were necessary to eliminate the private free market system and free will. One of those was a government-granted central bank with the monopoly on the issuance of credit and currency. No private bank accounts would be allowed. And another point was government control over the means of production, including what was needed to power industry. Does that sound familiar? Well, if this alarms you, feel free to spread the word. Of course, you might be stymied by corporate friends of the Bidenistas who would love for the FCC to stifle your speech even more than they already do. Oh, yeah, and by the way, about the FCC, half of Plank 6 for Karl Marx's manifesto, that had to do with communications, and the other was dependent on fuel. Welcome to Marxism. Its U.S. government machinery has been laid out and paid for with your tax cash for a long time. And now, ironically, the woman who wants to run our Marxist fiat currency system is an overt Marxist. How fitting. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Remember, keep fighting for freedom. We'll see you at YouTube in the comments section. We'll see you at Rumble. They don't censor us. We'll see you at Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all over the internet. And we'll see you at MRCTV.org. That's MRCTV.org. For MRC TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.